Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back. You already know who it is. It's your boy MadeMenMelo coming to you back live with another top 10 anime from Vinny's 2. This is the top 10 anime villains of the decade of 2010 to 2019. Let's go on and take a look.
I'd like to give a shout out to this video sponsor, Last Claudia. Last Claudia is a mobile RPG game that features real-time battle with an enormous worldview and a magnificent plot that depicts humans collaborating with monsters to save the world together. It has classically pixelated characters moving about in a 3D environment with flashy moves to match, with detailed adventured cutscenes. Personally, I loved how the lore of various item descriptions, arcs, and units are all intertwined with each other. Right now, you can earn 3,000 crystals through the beginner's welcome campaign. So if you'd like to check out the game, click the link in the description and download the game for free. I'd argue that in most cases, the villain's just as important as the hero in anime. After all, a compelling hero's useless without opposition. Thankfully, the past decade's given us many iconic villains, and for this week's edition of the top 10 lists, we're going through some of the best. Before we enter a new year and a new decade, let's take a look at some of the most compelling, badass, or entertaining anime villains of the past decade.
諸君、私は戦争が好きだ。諸君、私は戦争が大好きだ。
We start off with the war-obsessed villain from Hellsing, the Major. Now, his scheme set the foundation for the story's conflicts. Few can match how deranged the Major is. As someone who loves all aspects of war, the consequences of war didn't matter much to him nor which side he ended up on. As long as there's bloodshed, it's enough to satisfy this crazy villain. Then again, what else could you expect from the commander of Nazi vampires hell-bent on the destruction of London? Even Alucard at his worst doesn't come close to how sick and terrible the Major can be. Ironically, for someone who loves war so much, the Major's actually a terrible fighter. Nevertheless, his masterful maneuvering and manipulations get him the ending that he wants. Despite his plans not completely sticking, the Major exits the stage of Hellsing a victor, a fulfilled and happy man.
Don't
As a
go
long
to
series with the legacy
Doflamingo.
it has, it's no surprise that One Piece has its own colourful and intriguing villains. Among those, Doflamingo is arguably my favourite. His glasses, his overall aura, his quotable speeches, there's a lot to like about Doflamingo. He's intimidating and entertaining despite being a powerful threat to our heroes. And let's not forget his creativity with his powers. It helps that he's one of the few villains in media whose backstories don't completely redeem him. Yes, he was abused and had a typical sob story background, but I'd argue that Doflamingo was already a dick to begin with anyway. His experiences merely drove him further into villainy, and I think that's one detail that we can appreciate with how his character gets developed.
この世界を壊すのは
Can't wait to get to that part.
俺だ
If I were to describe Takasugi in one word, I'd use charisma. A brooding figure, the enigmatic Takasugi served as the primary villain in the series, up to the introduction of Utsuro at least. Nevertheless, I'd say the former still the more appealing between the two. One good thing in my opinion about Takasugi is that his backstory and motives were kept in the dark for most of his story. At first he seems to be a one-dimensional, edgy villain known for his goal of revenge against the world, a character only being kept aloft by fangirls. Then comes his backstory, and we find out there's really more to this villain than meets the eye. He's truly a good example of a victim of circumstance. I guarantee that I'm not alone in the camp of people whose perspective of him changed after seeing the story from his point of view.
その傷でよくやるもんだ
The beauty of Psycho Pass is that it's a series that strikes home quite a bit, and it certainly makes you think about the repercussions of some systems of the real world. Personally speaking, I find Psycho Pass's world quite dystopic in some angles, which is why Makashima at one point comes across as a very interesting character. Set with the goal to liberate society from the Sibyl system, he presents himself as a dark messiah blessed with enlightenment. His natural charisma attracts numerous followers, and he masterfully organizes murders in his quest to overthrow the Sibyl system, the greatest evil from his point of view. Despite all of his parading as a savior, he basically just does things out of a personal vendetta. This character is especially relevant in modern society, considering that he's a product of a world and a society that denied him his right to exist. Not too different from the newest incarnation of Joker, eh?
あとはまあ
Durara.
あとは君への嫌がらせ
Now here's a wild card of a villain. Ikebukuro's knowledge broker's a simple character, a manipulative and sleazy person who enjoys chaos and conflict. While he's a villain through and through, he goes about his business in a more affable way, being more of a bystander who loves witnessing chaos consume people and their resulting reactions. Let's just say that Izaya is a troll more than anything else, a chaotic neutral one that you're better off avoiding if you value your sanity. Needless to say, this puts him at odds with the blunt and abrasive Shizuo, who sees him for what he is. Finally meeting his match, he finds the blonde man a worthy rival, and their battles are legends all over the busy ward.
Gotta finish that anime.
Wait, a JoJo representative in a top 10 list that isn't Dio? What madness is this? Well, listen, just hear me out for a while. Make no mistake, Dio is a very entertaining villain because of how over the top he is. The cartoonishly evil stint and the feud with Jonathan's cool and all, but have you ever taken a good look at Kira? I believe Kira's a far more compelling villain because of how unique he is for a serial killer. Kira's neither a super genius nor batshit insane. Instead, he's just a plain old murderer. No justifications, no conscience. He's just a villain given powers and acting on his instincts. The scary part of this is how relatable Kira can be. Everyone at some point has just wanted a quiet life. He doesn't have a grand motivation in doing the things he's doing. He's just following his instincts and his own mental desires. We even see the story from his perspective, and I think that makes Kira a great villain representative for the JoJo series.
Okay, that anime is just crazy as hell.
Vinland Saga's been picking up steam as expected, and it's in large part due to its compelling villain Askeladd. In a series about Vikings, you'd expect the antagonist to be a badass, rugged man with overwhelming power. You know, probably a burly man that doesn't give a damn and just slays anything while looking cool.
That's
that
crazy.
Description's not completely wrong for Askeladd, but it's not exactly right either. What makes him so dangerous isn't his overwhelming power, although he's no slouch in that department either. I think Askeladd's key trait is his ability to read people. He's a master of deception, and you have to be at the top of your game when facing him. One wrong read, and Askeladd will gladly make you pay. Overall, he's a lot more complex than he seems. This makes him a dangerous foe that Thorfinn must overcome. I'd even go as far as to say that he's been more of a main character than Thorfinn himself.
Madara. The ultimate badass.
Once more, we welcome Madara to another list. When I first heard of the legendary leader of the Uchihas, my expectations were off the roof. As he made his appearance in the Great Ninja War, those expectations were met and then some. He entered the war as expected, a well-oiled machine of destruction. No one came close to matching his strength, tactics, and power mastery. From the onset, which is one of the greatest one-man army fights in Shonen, by the way, all the way to his battles against the main guys, Madara didn't disappoint as expected from someone that has been built up in the way he was. I'd say that the way he was defeated was a bit of a cop-out though. It's as if Kishi realized that he made Madara too powerful already, so he just conveniently disposed of him. Of course, Aizen has to find his way back into one of these lists again. Bleach has been finished for quite some time already, but has there been a lot of villains with a legacy like Aizen throughout these years? Besides his broken powers and seemingly endless transformations, Aizen's most known for mind games. His powers of illusion already play to that. Few can outmaneuver Aizen in a battle of wits. Whatever plan or strategy you bring, say goodbye to it, as Aizen will have a counter to it, whether it be a carefully crafted plan or the simple act of overpowering whatever you have with his superior Ryatsu. Few can stand against Aizen at the top of his game. Add immortality and overly tuned combat abilities to his superior intellect, and you have a formidable opponent. He gets some nice development angles centered on his loneliness at the top, but I'm sure what most people know Aizen for are his broken abilities and near insatiable desire for control and power. He's truly a once-in-a-lifetime villain, and it's not surprising that the downfall of Bleach began when he went down. Standing tall at the top is Meruem. The main villain
Course.
of Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc finds himself at the top as a perfect antithesis to our protagonists. The strongest Chimera Ant, Meruem's a ruthless beast who knows no mercy, none more blatant than his actions on his debut episode. The great thing about Meruem is his development. Starting off as the ace that gives no value to life, he slowly develops into a complete character. Despite starting off as a sociopath, the Meruem you see by the end of the arc is a completely different and complex character by all means. As his experiences with the rest of the world accumulate, he eventually starts leaning towards becoming a character that's still a villain, but now carries some justification for his actions. In the end, it can be argued that Meruem's the key character in the Chimera Ant arc. It's his development that we see and follow after all. Now that's something that not all villains can make a claim to. Other villains might match Meruem in some areas such as outright popularity, but having this much development and complexity is something that sets the Chimera Ant King apart from a lot of anime villains this decade. So what do you think about this list? For me, these are some of the top anime villains of the past decade. To be honest, there are a lot more characters that I'd include. Perhaps if this gets 5,000 likes, we can go on for a volume 2, who knows. So who's your favorite villain of this decade? Comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more anime content.
I'm gonna have to
Don't
say
forget to check
Aizen.
out our sponsors game, Last Claudia.
damn
The
it,
links in the description.
when that
And
boy-
I'll see you next time
when that boy-
on VinnyTube.
Turned and just said everybody was under my damn genjutsu, my zanpakuto ability. That shit was nuts. I was like, how powerful can you be? Like, nobody suspected it. Nobody in the captain court expected, sensed it, had any thought. And my dog was like, all y'all was under my spell. All y'all. That's crazy. My dog Aizen was the truth. He's my number one. But thank you for tuning in. Comment down below what was your top villain or your list of top anime villains of the last decade, 2010 to 2019. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This your boy MadeMenMelo. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. Peace.